Today I've got Hayley Wheeler with me. She's an emotion-mind connection therapist. Hayley, introduce yourself. I mean, she comes from Wales, and so then she's got that beautiful lilting voice, which is delightful. So yes, I'm going to love that kind of musical voice that comes with the introduction. Introduce yourself, Hayley.
So I'm Hayley and I am mum to 4 children, although my eldest is 19, so technically an adult, but I don't think they ever become adults in our eyes, do they? I live in Llanelli on the coast. It's beautiful. We have so many beaches. I'm so blessed. We are so lucky to be so close to lots of beautiful nature, beautiful scenery. We nipped last night to the beach just to have 25 minutes in the freezing cold sea. Beautiful. And those are kind of my favorite things to do. So I am an EmotionMInd Connection therapist. I created the EmotionMInd Dynamic Programme. But my story, it starts in 2015. That was kind of my worst year, really. And with reflection, it probably started 5 years prior to that. I did a lot of learning having had depression. It was an awful time. And one of the big things I learned was how much anxiety was caught up in my depression. So even though my kind of main challenges were sadness, feeling completely lost, just had no direction, and one of my mantras was no way out. I just couldn't find a way out. There were so many anxiety fueled behaviors as well. There were things I lost peripheral vision for a short time, because my body had become so full of taking everything on board and trying to risk assess everything that it seemed to decide that I didn't need to have that peripheral vision. I developed a stutter and a stammer. I've never, prior to that time, ever stuttered or stammered, and I haven't since. And those are kind of the surprising things when you look back. And one of the things that I really questioned was whether I had early warning signs of dementia, because my memory became awful. I couldn't even remember simple words like ball. I'd say to the children, kick the round thing. The words just wouldn't come. And I'd lost the ability to remember numbers. And then at the same time, in this awful time where I just felt like I was failing as a mum, as a wife, as a business owner, I discovered that my second son, who was 11 at the time, had been living with anxiety his whole life. He'd been born with it.
Goodness.
And I suppose at that point, there was a risk of the guilt, having not noticed, having not understood what he was going through and why he was so different to the other 3. The guilt had the potential of really tipping me over the edge, but I say it was luck, but maybe with a lot of focus and determination, I decided it wasn't going to keep me down. It was the thing that motivated me to help him. And I decided that, I don't know even if I decided, I wasn't going to go down the medical route. I was going to go down the self-development route and help him that way in all the practical ways that I was capable of. I'm going to use that word lightly because I didn't feel like I was capable at the time. So yeah, the anxiety was a bit of a shock, but a bit of a revelation as well, because it kind of, do you know when you have that aha moment where everything falls into place and you just go, why didn't I see it before?
Okay.
I had one of those mornings and I realized that it was the anxiety, and his battle became my battle to help him understand his anxiety.
Wow. So you developed the anxiety and depression yourself. And through that, I understand that's how you realised that your son had anxiety.
Yes, yeah. Now, something I learned last year is that we are 3rd and 4th generation of mental health sufferers.
It does go through it carries through the genes, yes, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and I hadn't known that until last year.
Wow.
And I wonder if I had known it, would I have done anything different? But I'm not sure I would have had the skills, the knowledge and the ability back then to have done anything different.
Yes, I think that's it. There's a lot involved, isn't there? There's, first of all, there's the awareness, and then there's the knowledge, and wow, once you start opening up that, you just go down more and more rabbit holes, because there's so much to learn, and it's new research constantly coming out. So I'm always learning, and you know, I've been doing this started my journey over 20 years ago. So that was when I started training as a counsellor, psychotherapist. But if things have changed so vastly since then, you learn some things, but you don't know all of it. You can't know all of it. And that's why I'm intrigued about the, you said you lost your peripheral vision. That's something I haven't heard of with somebody who's had that condition. So that must have been quite, I don't know how that felt, but quite worrying.
Yeah, and at the time when it went, I was driving down a road in the dark.
Wow.
So I picked my daughter up from gymnastics, and you know, it's a journey I've done many times before. And as it naturally is with depression and anxiety, your head is constantly full. And you know, I remember being always energy filled, but not always a good energy, if that makes sense. So we were driving back, it was dark, and it just went. I just couldn't see anything outside of the front windscreen, and it scared me. It really did scare me, but I'm more afraid of the dark than I was of that. And I just thought, just get me home and I'll be okay. So I got home, and it was very strange not to have that. And I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't understand a lot of things at the time, and that I just didn't get at all. But looking back, I do believe that I was so full, and so I just had no other capacity. And I just feel my body, as clever as our bodies are, decided that you don't need to know what is that, you know, outside of your foveal vision. Is that I think that's right.
Oh yeah.
So it just went, and luckily it did come back. It came back within 24 hours.
Oh gosh, that was a relief.
Yeah, it really was, because you don't realize until it's gone.
No. And I find the connection between mind and body is interesting. I mean, I discovered it, if you like, with clients. It was coming more and more, you know, during my practice, but I didn't see it being written about or talked about until just a few years ago. I was thinking, but I've seen this kind of so much, and I guess that was just almost, as you say, one of those light bulb moments. Your brain, your body was saying, look, you don't need to see outside, that you need to concentrate on you. Interestingly, when I had a bout of depression, luckily it only lasted about 6 months, maybe longer, but I mean the real kind of difficult part for me, where it was so incapacitating. But I felt I was sitting on the edge of a black hole, and that if I just moved slightly forward, I would go down that black hole. I would never come back out. But not to the degree that you had that. So it's interesting how different people are affected in different ways.
It really is.
Yeah.
I always say we're probably, as human beings, we're as complex as we are simple.
Yeah.
And one of the things, my son, when trying to get 11-year-old to understand what anxiety is, it was fun and games, let me say. We were out for a walk by this beautiful reservoir, beautiful woods, and I tried the medical model description. No, didn't get it. I tried other descriptions that I'd found online, just to because I didn't know how to describe it to him either. And then we'd watched Wreck-It Ralph, the Disney movie, and I said to him, do you know Vanellope von Schweetz, the little character, she's a glitch. So she glitches in the game. And I said, that's what happens to your system. So when you go into being afraid of something, when fear hits, your system goes round and round. There's no stop, risk assess and decide whether you are really at risk or not. It just goes on and on. And I said, with me, when I'm afraid of something, I can stop and I can think about and decide whether this really is a risk to me. And I could see it on his face, the understanding that, oh, okay, I've got a glitch. And I think not just I've got a glitch, but there's nothing wrong with me. It's not me.
Mm.
And that was powerful for him.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you gave him something he could relate to in his world. And I think it is, so many people say to me, I feel so alone, or I'm glad, and then I feel it's just me, or when we talk, oh, I'm so glad it's not just me. Because they feel so isolated, so lonely. So as you say, it's got to be me. What's wrong with me? There's something really, really wrong with me, instead of having a glitch.
Yeah, just something. It to me, that gave him also the realization that he had control.
Yeah.
That he could learn how to not have that glitch. And I think that's another thing that people do. And that's part of the isolation, really, is it must be me. There's something wrong with me and I can't change it.
Yeah.
And I think it's powerful to appreciate that once you have the right skills, the right knowledge, you've learned the right things, you can. And I think we need to teach that better than we do.
Yes, you're right. I hear so many clients, they'll come to me with a diagnosis and they have this view that defines them. And I think, no, it doesn't. You are so much more than that diagnosis. And we do. I mean, there are people we have to accept that it will be so difficult, almost impossible, because the way the dis-ease affects them to such a degree, and they will need more than that we can change. I think some people are very poorly, and I think we need to kind of notice that one. But I do agree with you that most of us have that ability to make those changes, because that's the way we're made. And I found it. I'm going to bring in something about me, if that's okay. It was just something I went for. I saw a cardiologist, and they did some kind of particular scan, and I won't bore you with the details of it. But while we were having this conversation, something had thrown up in a ECG, which said that there was damage to my heart. So this was why they did an extra kind of checks. But the cardiologist said, but it just means that there might have been a slight blip somewhere along the line. It doesn't mean there's real damage to your heart. But our bodies are so clever, because the valves, the arteries and the veins, they find another route and carry on working. And that astounded me, because I thought, but that's the same with the brain. The neural pathways, it's called I can't think of the word, but it's like plastic. It's not the word. Yes, that's it, plasticity. They are. It's like plastic. It's pliable. It's valuable, and that's the thing that people forget, isn't it? That we have that. And we can change those neural pathways. They'll make new pathways. Yeah. And that works in emotional and physical. So I'm always amazed at our bodies.
Yeah, and I do wonder why we don't teach children more in biology. I get they do the sciences, and biology is one of them. But they learn about plants and stems, and why not human beings? Why not the neuroplasticity? Why not how the mind and body is connected, and how the emotions are connected to the mind. And I think that would be so beneficial. You know, we've got this new curriculum coming in. I wonder if they've changed that. It's based on well-being. So could they could they be?
Yes, yeah. I think the subjects are so broad, aren't they? There's so much to learn. Where do you begin? Where do you end? I mean, I think there's so much that we're learning that we want our children to learn, but how much could you put that into the school curriculum, I guess? But yeah, I mean, but even adults, we're still learning, and that's why I love following all these new people, if you like, not the pioneers like Freud and Jung and so on, who started us on this journey, but the new ones that are in today. There's the Peter Levines and the Gabor Mates, and let alone all the other scientists, that they're teaching us so much more, and they're still learning. So it's just amazing, isn't it? But it is that once I think the understanding what's going on in our brain that causes us to have that glitch, the neuroscience fascinates me. So once we understand that, and then that we have that power, that we can use tools and techniques to help ourselves, that's the wonderful part, isn't it?
It is, and we, the World Wide Web does give us so much access to so many different sources of information, and I understand that information, misinformation, I understand it's all there. But as in school, you will pick up what's relevant to you, and I think we have these opportunities now to understand our own anxiety or our own emotional state in a way that suits us with all the information. It's just about, I suppose, filtering it all down and picking out the relevant bits.
Yeah, and one size doesn't fit all. That's the other thing. I think we have to find our own way, what works for each of us, because again, just as the symptoms can be different, so can the treatments that we use. And I think that's where medication can help in some situations. I'm not against it at all. I think it can really help with rebalancing the chemicals. I think everyone has to take their own route. And I think also that there are many, many different types of therapies that can help. So yes, it just is finding our own way. So that's what you've learned to do for yourself and your son, and that's what you're helping others with, which is really great. Yeah.
Is that, helping, I think you probably feel the same, helping somebody to understand themselves so that they are able to do that long term. And it's just amazing, isn't it? It's amazing to be able to do that, to have the ability and the knowledge to be able to pass that on. And I often say, and this has offended, and I don't mean to offend anybody, I am grateful for having had depression because it taught me so much. I'm grateful that I was able to help my son with his anxiety. Excuse me. But I now can use that information and that learning to support other people.
Yeah, that is great. So one thing that people can take away with themselves today that will help them.
You are the most important person in your world. You are the only person that travels with you throughout your life. So look after that person. Invest in them. Do what you would do, as we naturally do for other people. Do that for yourself, because you get to decide then what life means for you. But we're not good at doing that, are we?
No. Great doing it for others, and conversations I have many times. I'm sure you do, Hayley.
Yeah,
it's been really interesting talking today. Thank you. One easy way that people can get in touch with you.
Facebook is the best way, probably. Hayley T Wheeler, and just come in and join the party. Come and find out what I share and all the information I put out there.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you very much for being a guest. I will put all the other details in the show notes. Thank you today for chatting to the audience. People have found it useful.
It's been fab. Thank you.